What's up guys, the Pro MG Money channel here. This is your boy Pro MG Money and I'm back again with another video, and today we're going to be speaking about personal finance and why I think personal finance should be personal. How this topic came about is that there's a lot of I don't want to call them gurus or people speaking about finance on the YouTube space and on social media in general, who will come up with, or who have these personal finance tips or things you should follow or do, to get or reach your financial freedom. And it's all good and well, but it's personal to each and every one of us. When we all come on here and say that this is not financial advice and that if you want financial advice, go to a certified person. As much as people say that, for fact that everyone who comes onto this platform and says invest in this or I invested in that and I got good returns, that's advice. They're advising you. There's no two ways about it. That disclaimer they just throw in there just because they're trying to save themselves from any kind of legal actions or repercussions of that advice and so on and so forth. But anyway, point I'm making is that they all advise you on things that are personal to them and don't actually take it into context what it might mean for you and I, for any other random person. So today I'm just going to go over 4 things that I always see in personal finance that I think the idea is correct, but that doesn't necessarily work for me, and basically give you guys my differentiated approach to those principles. Let's get into it. And the first one has to do with investing, and the rule generally goes, don't start investing until you've paid up all of your bad debt. This, I think, 100% is a really good rule or a good principle to live by. What it basically means is that all of your bad debt, so everything that has a high interest rate, whether it's a credit card that you've got with your bank, whether you've got, a store clothing account with a high interest rate, whether, it's Shaga the Mashronisa who you owe 1,000% interest to, it doesn't matter who it is. Any kind of debt that is really high and is generally unsecured. What an unsecured loan or debt could be is something that's not backed by something else. There's no tangible asset attached to it. So when it comes to, a home loan, for example, it's secured by the actual property that's being bought with that loan. Same thing with the car loan, that if you don't pay the car, the bank can at least repossess the car to try and recover some of the money. So that's what a secured loan is. An unsecured loan is basically just like a personal loan. It's just, here your salary looks good, take some money, or here, yeah, your salary looks good, take a revolving account, or whatever the case might be. So that is kind of your bad debt. And the reason why people say that you must pay this off first before you start investing is that, generally speaking, in the market, you should be expecting to make anywhere from 9 to 12% per year in returns, and your interest is on these unsecured or your bad debt is generally higher than that 12 to 9%. So as a result, all the gains you'd be making in the stock market won't be beating the kind of savings you could be making by paying off your debt quicker. Now, for me personally, what I believe in this is that you definitely should be as aggressive as you can with your bad debt, or with your bad debt. Try to pay it off as quickly as possible. But at the same time, I think there is value in starting to invest now, today. It's no use you sitting on the bench for the next 6 months, 2 years, busy working on getting your debt in control and in order. Meanwhile, you could have been using that same time to learn about the stock market. For me personally, as I've always said, time in the market is better than timing the market. So I would rather you start today. So let's say, you consolidate all of your debt and you know that your monthly payment to get it done in a year is 3K. Personally, what I would do is that I would take that 3K down to 2.5, take a 500 Rand out of that every month and start investing with that money. Maybe you'll lose, maybe you'll win, maybe you will, do better than, the interest rate that you're paying on that consolidated loan, or whatever the case might be. But fact of the matter is that the sooner you get started investing, the sooner you start learning and start understanding how things work. Because I can tell you now for a fact, it's completely different when you are using real money. I know other people will come and say, no, you can go to Easy Equities and use the demo account. Listen, when it's real money, when it's your money on the line, I'm telling you, you respond differently to what goes on in the market. When you see a candlestick going down, I don't know if you all know that meme of that, candlestick of when a person buys, it goes up and sells. Yeah, that meme. That thing is scary, and it truly happens when it is your own money. So I definitely say get some skin in the game, have your own money there, and start investing as soon as you can, even if you do have debt. The nice thing is that once you're done paying off all of your debt, that same money that you're using towards paying your debt, you can now redirect it completely into investing in the stock market. And I think by then you would have learned the ropes. You would have known what gives you good returns, what gives you bad returns, and more or less where your money should be going every month. So for me personally, that first rule is not really up to it. Second rule is getting an emergency fund, which again, I agree with all of the people who say get an emergency fund. I think you do need to put money aside or away for a rainy day, because you never know what's going to happen. Some of the instances that they list, I don't want to say that they're unrealistic or like you losing your job and all of that. Those are valid things and valid emergencies, but I don't think we well and truly understand what an emergency is or isn't, particularly, if people tend to dip into it for random things here and there. For me, something that you have, emergency savings for, something like a funeral. If someone close in your family dies and you need to pay for those expenses, right now I would definitely dip into my emergency fund for that, or that seems like a valid thing for me to pay to use my emergency fund for. But now the problem with the way that they say going about doing it is taking that money and putting it in some sort of savings account that has quick access, so that money is liquid, you can access it quickly, which is good, but the returns of those accounts are generally quite bad. And I personally feel that money could be better used elsewhere. I mean, for example, I know that funerals at B3, you can start anywhere from 30,000 and make it all the way up to 100k. So now imagine taking 30,000 to 100k and putting it somewhere where you're getting 2-3% every year. That really isn't worth it, where you'd rather take that money and invest it with everything else that you're investing in, or you can have its own separate account. Maybe you can find a way to get more than one easy equities account, or you decide to get something with your bank or with another institution. But the fact of the matter is that finding a way to take that same emergency fund and putting it away, but then instead what you do is that you make sure that you've got a sufficient credit facility. Reason why I say you must get a credit facility, and I know a lot of you will think, oh, that's bad debt, unsecured loan or whatever. With my bank, FNB, on the credit card side, if you can get a credit card, you actually get 55 days interest free. So what happens is that, let's say maybe you've put aside 50,000 rand and that's your emergency, and you've put it in your easy equities account, and maybe some of it is in USD, some of it is in ZAR. When the emergency happens, first thing you do is you go to your credit card and you take that money from there and you pay for all of the expenses you need to pay for immediately from your credit card. So we've solved the liquidity problem. You're liquid. Your credit card or the access to those funds is made immediately. With my bank, it's almost instantly I can get access to the full amount of credit that I've been approved for. Then while that's going on, I then in the background have to start liquidating my positions in my brokerage account. This is to then put back that so-called emergency fund money back into the credit card. This way, I'm getting the highest return I possibly can on my money without having a so-called emergency fund, but I've sort of solved the liquidity problem. Additional to this, if you do happen to have a very high credit usability, or I think, what do they call it? Credit utilization. If you have a very high credit limit and you don't use it, you generally will have also as well a better credit score as a result of doing that. So I think this kind of kills 2 to 3 birds with one stone. First of all, liquidity is not an issue, credit is always there, and it's interest free if you pay it back in 55 days, which is exactly what I'll do. I will say though, you need to really be disciplined for this to work, because trust me, I know when it's December and things are nice and your check account is looking a bit dry and you look at your balance on your credit account, you think, I could just dip in and out, and I have been guilty of doing that more than once. But the idea is to always pay it back as quickly as possible. So you need to be disciplined, don't fall into that trap, but that's liquidity. Second part is that your money is not going to waste. Your money is working as hard as it possibly can by being invested wherever you decide to invest it. I hope and pray that when you invest, you do make wise decisions and you grow your money at a decent rate, because that always needs to happen. And I forgot what the last thing I was fixing up, but whatever the emergency is, it's being sorted. So that's my approach, or how I go about doing a emergency fund. One of the things that I've seen in Nicolette's videos recently is that she also said putting it into what you call an access bond facility. So that is just your normal home loan or bond, kind of has a facility where you can take or pay in extra money, and that money sort of goes towards paying back the home loan, but it's also made available to you yeah, I don't really, truly know and understand how it goes, because every time I pay extra into my bond, it literally goes away. Or maybe it's just, an actual account you need to ask the bank, or facility you need to ask the bank to open for you. But I think that's also, a better option than just getting some sort of, money market type account. I know with FNB they've got what they call a money maximizer account, and it's really good if in the next month or 2 months or 3 months you are going to have a big cash purchase, and you sort of want a place to put your money for now. You don't want to tie up in things, you don't want market volatility to get to it. By all means, put your money there. But generally speaking, if you've got an emergency fund and that thing needs to be sitting for a year, 2 years, 3 years, really you're better off investing it somewhere and just liquidating when it's time to use those emergency savings. So yeah, that is my take on an emergency fund. Next is get a tax-free savings account. And again, I'm not in dispute of this. I think you should get a tax-free savings account. I think it's a really good thing. Government has really helped us out here by allowing us to invest our money and not have to worry too much about SARS and the taxman getting to us. But the problem with a tax-free savings account is that it is similar to an RA, which we're going to get to now, in that it's kind of money that you need to put away and kind of forget and never touch. So people who would say use your tax-free savings as an emergency fund, that's the completely wrong approach, because the thing about your tax-free savings is that once you take the money out, you can't put it in. You have a lifetime limit of $500,000 to put in your tax-free savings and a yearly limit of 36,000. So let's say you've put in enough money and you've reached your $500,000 threshold, and for some reason you have an emergency that needs 100K. You take out that 100K and you can't put it back in. So once you've contributed your full R500,000 in your lifetime, and this is lifetime, not just a single person, in your lifetime, that's it, you're done. And to put into perspective for you, to get your full amount in let's call it the shortest amount of time, it'll take 13 years. I don't know about you, but 13 years is relatively small. In 13 years, I could definitely for sure get to $500,000 with my tax-free savings. So I think it's a bit, I don't want to say unwise to first advise people to go there, but I think it's unrealistic. I think a lot of the people who, make these advice are people who are living, I don't want to say a privileged life, but money for them is not as much of an issue as a common man is. Let's take someone who's earning, 15,000 Rand a month. That person in reality can only, or let's say that they can somehow, somewhere afford, to put away 1,000 Rand every month, which is great, for them. And it's something that I would definitely encourage. But now saying to that person you can't really access that money, you kind of need to put it away and let it do its thing, doesn't really work, because tough times do come, things do happen, and people need access to their money for whatever reason or whatever things could come up. So now saying to that person that it's not really efficient for you to take out that money and put it back in, doesn't really work for me. I know, again, with the time in the market versus timing the market type of thing, I've always said that, but I would always say to people, rather wait until it's a bit later, once you can properly afford to put money in there and completely forget about it, to get a tax-free savings, rather than from the jump have it as your first thing. Truth be told, if you are earning 15,000 Rand a month, you probably are as well in the lower tax bracket. So what you'll also be charged, on your what your taxes will be on your gains won't be as heavy as people who are in some of the higher tax brackets. So there's that to consider as well. But basically what I'm saying is that tax-free savings are a good idea. Definitely get one, but it's not the solution or the first point of call we should all get into. I well and truly believe people should start on other things or smaller things, particularly if your salary is smaller, and then get to a tax-free savings once it's money you can afford to pretty much forget about, because like I said, you hit the threshold and you're done. That's you for life. And with that is getting an RA. Also a very, very good idea. Getting retirement annuity, personally for me, is a must for almost each and every person who is out there. But again, same problem with the tax-free savings as with the RA. Your RA is basically an additional pension fund that government allows you to get, and you kind of get a tax rebate back for contributing to an RA. The catch is that once you cash out of your RA, which you can only do once you're retired, is you kind of have to pay tax on that once you have that payout. So it kind of balances itself out in that way, meaning that you kind of deferring a tax bill, not taking it now, rather taking it later, and you also take it on your gains. So I don't know which is better, but personally for me, I'm not a big fan of telling each and every person to get an RA as soon as they can, because this money is tied up. An RA is even worse. At least a tax-free savings, you can actually take out the money. An RA, you can't. It is tied up until you are retired. There obviously are exceptional circumstances where you can probably take it out, but there's probably gang penalties and a whole lot of other things that, you know, work against you. But for me, an RA again is I don't want to say privilege, but I think it's a privileged person's product. Similar to tax-free savings, we'll call it privileged people things. It's someone who, you know, can afford to put that money away, who won't need it for anything. Again, personally for me, that person who's earning 15,000 Rand, you could or can be contributing to an RA, because I definitely do feel that it does help to get started as soon as you can. But at the same time, you don't have access to that money. Like things happen and you can't, you know, tie money up for the next 20, 30, however many years, you know, that people say that you should. So in reality, if you can't be affording to put money away for 10 years and forgetting about it, I don't think you should be getting an RA at this point. I think find something better, something that works your money a bit harder than an RA, because RAs have to be Regulation 28 compliant, which is a whole other story in and of itself. But basically for me, RAs, privileged people products. You can't tell each and every person who's trying to get into personal finance or who's trying to fix their finances to get an RA. I think just wait. And yeah, those are basically just 4 quick things that I think personally a lot of the personal finance communities in space like to punt or tell people to do and get, that in reality is not always the best choice for each and every one of us. Like I say, personal finance is personal, so it needs to be applicable to you and your circumstances and how you go about doing it. In my instance, I think the 3 other things, the RA, tax-free savings, and I forgot what the other one was. But the one that really, really sticks out for me is the emergency fund. You know, the emergency fund one, that one just makes the most sense for me, is that I know I've got a set amount of money that's invested somewhere, and I've got, you know, a pretty good credit amount that I have available to use if and when things do happen. That's the only thing really that's applicable to me. I do, you know, all of the other things, but I understand and I know in context what it might mean to different people at different stages in their lives. I'm privileged to be in the position that I'm in, that I've got employment where, you know, I can afford to put these things away and not really worry about, you know, that money too much. But there was a time, particularly when I was working in retail, I did work in retail some time back, where I can tell you for a fact, putting money into a tax-free savings wasn't the most efficient thing for me at the time. Granted, I knew nothing about investing then, so it didn't really bother me. But when you are earning, you know, you're 10, you're 15, and even those amounts are quite high amounts of money, you know, in South Africa. There are people who are getting by just on 4, 5, 6,000, and obviously those people, personal finance, I don't want to say shouldn't be a concern to them, but they've got bigger concerns than, you know, where their money is best working for them, and they should probably focus on those things. But once you start to get up to a certain level, I always say, if you start earning 10,000 Rand or more, you kind of need to start thinking about where you know you can start to put money away to have it working or doing something for you. Not that should be your main focus, because in reality, if you are earning 10,000 Rand in South Africa, you know, thinking about the landscape and how things are in South Africa, that salary is probably supporting a whole family. So even trying to invest it is maybe not the best thing to do for you and your circumstance. But I think that's the main takeaway from this video, is that take everyone's advice, not with a grain of salt, but look at the principle, look at what they're trying to teach, what they're trying to get you to do. And with that, decide for you what's the best course of action. So if you are going to save for retirement, definitely do it, but think, is an RA the best thing for you? You know, if you do want to get, you know, tax-free savings, definitely do it, but know that what you take out, you can never put back in. And your debt, work on your debts as best as you can, but don't do it to the exclusion of all other things. Those are, you know, the little tips or the things I have on personal finance. And yeah, that has been your boy Prem Chimani. I hope you guys are having a good day, and I'll see you guys probably on a Friday, should be the next video coming out. Peace.